You're watching The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God. We are The Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building, Mr. Salaam Remi.
Yo, what's up?
Now, we were just joking behind the scenes that you never come out. So this is that one time of the year that you actually came out.
Exactly, 1.5. You know what I'm saying? I keep in the back streets.
Yeah, I just kicked the guy out of the room because he goes, "So who's this guy y'all about to interview?" He don't know nobody.
He don't know nobody.
Young.
So.
Well, you know what? I think growing up, I always heard Salaam Remi's name.
Never seen him.
But I would never see you.
Exactly.
Was that by design that you kept like a relatively low profile? Because you contributed so much to the culture.
I feel like, most of my work has been producing artists that had high profiles. So my job was to make them popular. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm blessed to have, at this point, a 30-year career. You know what I'm saying? It goes back to 86 and be able to be a part of a lot of great artists. But for me, as a producer and taking notes from people before me, sometimes it's about, the generation before mine, it was always the producer was the guy who got it done. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let's break that down. How'd you get started?
How'd I get started? Well, my dad was in the business, still is in the business, still manages Allison Hines from Barbados and stuff. But in general, I was a kid coming up doing beats, helping out my father who was producing the Fat Boys, Curtis Blow, and different things. And then I ended up sneaking in the studio and kind of making my own 1-2 beats. And that stuff just basically morphed into me being around, the Chuck Chillouts and kind of being in the radio scene and being in the hip hop scene and always being able to kind of come up with the fly remix that would be able to pop off. So from 86 to 89, I was kind of helping out a lot of stuff. 91, Marley Marl let me get some cold production on Craig G. And then from there, I just kind of ran with it. Everything I could do, I'll get my hands on, I'll make it happen.
I remember the Fugees, first and foremost. I was like, okay, who is Salaam Remi with the Fugees? You did a lot for them, though, early on in their career.
Exactly. That started out, and then I was also doing a lot of the reggae, hip-hop stuff, like a lot of reggae artists that came up with. Supercat, Get a Red High.
Supercat, I forgot about Supercat.
Supercat was the man.
Supercat was
fire.
Exactly.
So that, Mac Daddy, a lot of stuff, Mega Banton. It was all the stuff that was coming straight out of Jamaica that needed to get on the radio for hip-hop and R&B.
So your Caribbean roots did a lot for you.
Definitely. It helped me out, and I was working a lot with other DJs in the city that were doing all those type of mixes, so it was easy for me to morph into it, and that's why they sent me to Fugees, because they were Haitian, and they were like, we needed that bridge to figure out how to get this group into the mainstream.
You were like the green card for like Caribbean artists.
Yeah, I guess so. You know what I'm saying? I had to get, those I say I helped the songs get visas, because a lot of songs can't get no visa. It's stuck at the airport, so I get it a visa, get the pass, and we kind of get through.
And Patra, so Patra, you did a remix of Patra.
Patra.
I produced, her first records, Think, and a lot of stuff. So it was all that stuff.
Was she really fine in person, man? I never seen Patra. Was she looked amazing?
She had that energy more than anything else. I mean, she could do the dance and everything, but she had an energy that you'd be looking like, for real? You gonna keep walking by me like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the braids and stuff. When she had the her and Yo-Yo all together.
My property.
Exactly. Her and Yo-Yo had the opposite sides of light skin, dark skin, but it was like, hey, where's she going? Like, I wondered. I don't know, but I wondered.
Never pushed up?
Nah.
Let me ask you about the Fugees for a second, though, because I remember when they first came out, right? Did they do an album that didn't do as well, and then they did another one? Because I remember them remixing, and I just remember.
Well, basically, the first album was Blunted on Reality. I think that came out in '93, and my boy Jeff Burrows had called me and asked me yo, can you help this group out? I think they're talented, but they can't do it. So I ended up remixing off that album, really new records, which became Nappy Heads, Your Mona Lisa, from scratch.
Because I remember the original, and then you bought that, and you thought it was the remix.
Yeah, and a lot of people got caught out there. My bad, but
remix
that was
way
fault.
Better.
So I fixed them up and kind of gave them their first. It's almost like what happens now when people got a couple of SoundCloud hits and then they get to their real record. Well, in those days, I guess Nappy Heads being the first thing people liked, and then Vocab remix being something that they kind of got their grounds.
You wasn't in the studio with Fugees. You just said send me the vocals.
No, actually, I was in the studio, and that's what made the difference, because they had talent, but they didn't know how to channel it. So what I've been, for my career, whether it was them or Miguel or anybody else, it's just helping people channel their talent and then figure out where they can go with it. And from that, they learned between those two songs and then Fuji La, and then they did everything else on their own. I'd just be like, nah, move that over a little bit, switch this up, and, kind of just mentor them, you know what I'm saying, which is still a better position for me as my personality, and also I think it does more in the long run because you're kind of paying it forward.
That's interesting, though, because Wyclef is a musical genius. Right. So did y'all ever have bump heads, or was he open to coaching at the time? Or?
Not totally. I mean, if you ask him, he'll probably tell you that he learned how to focus his stuff from me. You know what I'm saying? Like I actually showed him how to do that. Then even when he was working on his other records, like I produced the vocals on Going to November. Like he was going to make an instrumental. I would go by his sessions and hear what's what. I was at the session when he did Destiny Child's No 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 remix. Like I stopped and looked. Yeah, that sound good. But I would always just throw advice around, which is, like I said, that's my energy. I feel like I spend 80% of my days nowadays, giving advice to other people.
What'd you do with the score? Did you have hands in that too?
Yeah, Fugees Law, which the whole score was based around.
All right.
So that was the first single, and then that kind of they put the whole sound around the score basically.
It's interesting because I was talking about Tribe Called Quest putting out a new album, and Q-Tip was saying one rule that he had was everybody had to come in the studio to lay down their vocals. Like you couldn't just send it in, and it is a different energy when you're actually in the studio with somebody.
Oh, 1,000%, 1,000%. Because I mean, right now I just feel like a lot of stuff is getting microwaved, and you're not actually getting a chance to really season it and kind of get a vibe off of somebody else, look in their eyes, kind of feel what's happening. And I'm still trying to be an analog dude in the digital age. So ultimately, that's a challenge in itself. But once again, the real thing's gonna stand through, and a lot of other stuff gonna fall away.
You mentioned Miguel. It's interesting to me because Miguel's my favorite R&B artist now, and you also did a lot of work with Mack Wilds. So I always wonder what makes you want to sit down with them because of the legends you've worked with, like the Fugees and the Nas and the Amy Winehouses. What about them, Miguel and Mack Wilds, that made you be like, yeah, I want to put some energy behind this?
Miguel, it was kind of like a thing where before I'd actually met him, I was working with Jasmine Sullivan, and she was always playing his mixtape that had Quickie and Short Thing on it. So I was like, I kind of heard of him. And then at the time, Nas and Anthony were managing him. And then I was like, who's the A&R? Mark Pitt. So it was all like family that he was around. So the first days I met him, he came to the crib, and then we actually started How Many Drinks. And then he was like, nah, I don't want to do that. That's a little too smooth. He didn't want to get mixed up with a Donnell Jones or something like that.
Is he bugging?
That's what he said. Bugging? He was totally bugging. So that was our argument for 2 years later on the next album. But then he's like, I want someone with some guitars, which he was trying to get his Kaleidoscope dream off then, but he didn't know how to do it yet. So I gave him All I Want Is You because it was guitars. And then he started singing, and I just told him to tell the truth, And then I felt like what I did with Miguel helped him learn how to channel whatever he had in himself better. And then he produced The Dawn, his biggest hit to this day. So I look at it like that's my energy. And even, recently this summer we put out a record, Come Through and Chill, which I was like, just throw it on SoundCloud, let it out. It's for the reason of, like I said, just be who you are, be comfortable in it. Because sometimes, especially with, industry, life pressures, my job has been to talk to somebody through a glass, and whether they rich or broke, mad, happy, sad, problems, no problems, I got to get them to say something that makes a difference, or I don't eat. You know what I'm
I
saying?
feel like we learned a lot about you watching the Amy Winehouse documentary also, and just your relationship with Amy Winehouse and working with her, and what great things she had to say about you.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I can only say that this is divine for me. You know what I'm saying? There's no way that if somebody can't sit down and ask to come in contact with that much A-level talent. And for me, just the opportunity to meet these people, they had it in them already. I was just able to help them unlock whatever was in them and get them to where they had to go. So for me, it's just a process of getting to people and helping them learn their faults and also what people might want to hear from them. So that's to me, it's like it's a dope channel. Which at this point in my life, getting up in the years, so I'm sitting there going, so what am I really doing and why am I here? It's just simply for that purpose.
Now let's talk about Amy Winehouse, because you went from you produce Akon, you produce reggae artists, you produce Fugees, Haitians, you produce Nas, Queens, and then it's Amy Winehouse.
Right.
How was that experience? And was it difficult and different for you?
Not really. At that time, I had already done like the Fugees. I worked with another artist named Miss Dynamite from London. I'd already worked on Virtual Insanity for Jamiroquai. I'd already been working on really musical stuff.
And she's very soulful too.
Yeah,
and she was super soulful. And then she heard a record that I did for Left Eye Lopez before she passed called The Block Party. So she was looking for me, and I was like, and I heard it, and it was kind of. No, in 2002, it was like, that could have been like a fake Erykah Badu, fake Philly wannabe. I couldn't tell what it was. And then they was just like, they convinced me, meet her. So I moved to Miami. I'm like, yo, if it ain't good music, good people, good money, get out of here. I'm chilling. And when she walked in, she started singing, and then it just totally reinvigorated me. She was 18, had the voice of an angel, could play her guitar, and she was really smart mouth. So I was like, all right, cool. What we gonna do? We just gonna make songs with you talking your ish.
Talking that ish.
You know what I'm saying? Say what you got to say. And then instead of making it sound like what Philly was, I made it way more hip hop and way more jazz. So I just was able to pull something else out of her, and she pulled something else out of me.
It's interesting with Amy, though, because people look at Amy and they think, oh, she's white. Her voice was so soulful. Like, there was nothing white about her voice.
She was a heavy black woman.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't do the way. Like,
and she went
her
through
notes
so
is
much,
crazy.
but that's what made Back to Black such a great album. was all the personal things that she was going through in her life and the trials and tribulations and the breakups and the drugs and the rehab and all of that and family issues. And it's a shame that sometimes people make their bet. Like, we love Mary J. Blige when Mary J. Blige was really going through it. We loved Amy Winehouse's album when she was going through it. We loved Toni Braxton when she was brokenhearted. And I feel like with Amy Winehouse, a lot of artists, we like love their music when they have a lot of pain.
But you don't realize they really going through something.
Yeah, and you know, it's a thing for me where even now, like I got to a point after she passed, I felt like I was, you know, living my life putting chord changes to people's problems. You know what I'm saying? That was just like, do I really want to do this? So I can't even push back from working for a minute. Just like I'll do selective stuff, but just the, you know, the weight of really feeling like you're going, you know, bust your window. She really did that. So when it's time to make a record and she like, well, I ain't did no drama. I don't know if my records is good enough. I'm like, all right, we got to balance this out. So for me, it's a thing where, yeah, it's hard to balance that when life is your music. So even Jasmine Sullivan's last album was called Reality Show, because I was telling her, write it like it's a reality show. You ain't got to do it or live it. You know, it's not you now this time. It's there. Yeah. So it was really just like, you know, talk about the other person, kind of look out your window with it, because it's really hard for artists who are feeling like they want every word to mean something to them and trying to get that pain and that passion. Like, come on, we ain't trying to feel that pain all the time. It's the point where we got to let it up and throw a smile with it. But once again, we do love those sad records. I listen to the blues and gospel all day because it makes me feel good. You know what I'm saying? Which is, it seems backwards, but that's there. And I just feel like, you know, even now I got an album called Sex All Summer that I'm putting out just because I feel like I got to give back to all the lonely women I've been making money off of all these years. It got to be something that's like, hey, here you go. This is to have a nice day. You know what I'm saying? Feel good about yourself. It's all right. You know, he'll be back in the spring. You know what I'm saying?
Nice
Whatever happens.
You ever feel like as a friend you did enough to help Amy? Like just on a personal level, like as far as getting her help? Or?
Yeah, because I felt like I was more than anywhere else. I was the safe haven. You know what I'm saying? So when she was in my space, there was no craziness going on. It's totally cool. Like even when we were doing Back to Black, she was drinking a lot prior to Back to Black, but when she got to do Black to Black with me, she was not drinking the whole time, just easy and really cool. And she always wanted to get back to Miami to record. You know, the issues with England, they didn't have any go-away rehabs like they have here, where you could just say you go to rehab and that's that. You know, it was only hospitals where you could be there a certain amount of time. So she was going through a lot of stuff. And, you know, more than anything else, what hit me was I was in London and I was on my way to her house. But I got there the Thursday. I'm like, nah, I'm going to come on Saturday because we're going to a wedding Sunday. I'll make sure she's good. And then she died the Friday night. So that hit me. That hit me more than anything else because Nas actually called me right after that and I told him what happened. And he's like, yo, imagine if she was in Miami on South Beach and didn't come to your crib and you died. Like, that's it. So it hit me hard. And, you know, it's one of the things in my life that I go, okay, cool. Make me reevaluate, you know, what you're doing and why you're doing it. And, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I'm trying to do everything for the right reasons. But she was, you know, inspired by people who died way before she got here. And then she's going to inspire people who are born like now. You know what I'm saying? They're going to come across her music at some point and still get into it. So, you know, for me, it's still the music, the legacy, the person that she was. I'm glad that the movie humanized her for people who never got to see that. She had a total personality and everything else. But at the same time, it's like, you know, that's what I feel like. You know, there's millions and millions of people who will hear things that I might have helped create that will never know I exist. And for me, it's just keep pushing that positive energy out there.
What was your greatest memory of her? It's that one thing that makes you smile all the time.
Just an ass. She challenged you. Like with jokes, she's hard body. Like she was just an ass. Like she's gonna keep going with it. I can't even think of one thing off top. But just in general, there wasn't like 5 minutes that went by without some type of smart comment. And, you know, there's not 4 bars that go by in her song without a punchline. Like, that's just her. She's always talking something crazy. You know what I'm saying? So, in general, I could just laugh because I can't even think of one off top. I'm trying to think of one right now.
It'll come to you. You were the bridge between her and Nas, clearly, right?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it was funny. Like, when I moved to Miami in 2002, I was like, I'm not working. Everybody leave me alone. And then the 3 projects that I took on were Kevin Little's Turn Me On album, which is, you know, filling my Caribbean side, Nas' Godson, and then Amy's first album. They all born September 14th.
Oh, wow.
So I
knew Nas and Amy. I didn't know Kev.
Kevin Little too, and then also BG, and then Michael Patrick King, who I did Sex and the City 1 and 2 with. They all born the same day.
Sex and the City, one of my favorite
You said
movies.
BG? From Hot Boys?
Yeah.
Okay.
BG's born September 14th.
How'd you meet Nas? Because, you know, growing up in Queens, like, that was the god. Like, everybody wanted to be a part of it.
It's crazy. Me and Akinelli actually went to junior high together.
Akinelli.
So I always would
You still
see
speak to
Nas. Yeah,
In Miami, he's out
yeah,
there.
I spoke to him a couple
I
weeks
just
ago.
saw him.
Exactly, yeah, you know. So me and Ak and E Moneybags actually went to junior high school together at 227 over there, East Elmhurst. And when I would see Akinelli, he'd be like, yo, me and Nas trying to get on. So from the time Barbecue came out, I was always around him, but we never really connected totally.
Right.
But in 2001, I was out in L.A. working on some stuff, and I ran into him in the studio, and he was like, yo, you got BCD, so we exchanged two-way numbers. And then he hit me. Two ways, straight two ways. And he was like, yo, beamed each other like beep, beep.
Yeah,
so then
beam.
he was like, yo, no, I'm trying to get a track that sounds like murder music, that's some soulful, whatever it was. And then I ended up sending him the track that became What Goes Around. And then by the time he got back to New York, we just connected and started working on different music. And, you know, as we talk more, we knew all the same people. We come from the same place. Our pops both work with the same musicians. So it was like we had parallel lives, you know, even when I was in high school at Edison. Half of that was Queensbridge, people that lived in this building. So our references are the same even to now. Like when we talk about something, it's the same perspective. You know what I'm saying? He's a year younger than me, but we just click, you know what I'm saying, in general. And for us, that's ain't nothing like it. You know
You've always been so loyal to Nas. And one thing, though, I read Angie Martinez's book.
Right.
And Angie said you stopped talking to her when Nas and Jay-Z was beefing.
Yeah, that was Angie's viewpoint on it, which, you know, like there's always like 5 people in the room, you know what I'm saying? And
what really happened? You just cut her off because she was cool?
Nah, actually, I didn't speak to her because I'd moved. I saw her during that year. It was like some of the timeline in there is off. So when I was working on the Stillmatic album, Andrew was around because we were doing different stuff. So that was 2001. 2002 is
you produced for Angie too, right?
Yeah, I did her records, and, you know, that's my bestie, you know what I'm saying, at that time. So we were there. And then by the time she was working on her second album, I had seen her, and that's when the incident happened, whatever the Summer Jam drama, you know, Power, etc. conversation. And then I saw one day, she was like, yo, you got his number? I was like, I ain't got his number. I got two-way. You lying. All right, cool, whatever. That was like in, I guess, June or whatever it was. And then I actually hadn't spoken to her over the summer, but I'd moved to Miami, so it wasn't like we were speaking all the time. It's kind of like, you know, when your friends all live here, I moved to Miami, so everybody was like, you're gone. You're not here no more.
Right.
How's
See,
Miami
if it was
over
Twitter,
there?
If you would have unfollowed her, we would have known for a fact that you
right.
weren't really messing with her, but it might have been a little.
Yeah, and it was never that. I just actually didn't speak to her, and then, you know, I had to deal with, you know, her and Funk's drama. I mean, his and Funk's drama first, and then when I went to find Ange, I couldn't find her. But as she told me, because actually she never really said anything exactly what happened when she went missing on for a couple of years. So when we were talking about her book, then I had to be like, all right, so since we're here talking about this, what happened? Like, what was that? And she was just like, you know, as she should be, a little emotional, like, nah, you standing too close to him. F that. Like, you my peoples. And, you know, but that time was, you know, Made You Look was made pretty much to squash the drama.
Right.
I Know I Can was made because, radio's not playing us. Okay, we're going to make a record that, y'all can do it for the kids. You know what I'm saying?
They gotta play, right.
Basically, so all of that stuff was done in my energy to kill all the drama, because at the end of the day, I was close with both sides.
Right, and you were kind of in the middle of everything, it feels like.
I was in the middle, but, you know, also I think that, in my opinion, if I was around when all the back and forth was going on, it might not have gone down the same way.
You think so?
I always thought Made You Look was like a kind of a sub diss to Jay, when he was like getting Big's money, Playboy, your time's up. I always thought those were like little light jabs at Hov.
To a point, but more than anything else, like after the Ether stuff, he just like, I ain't saying nothing. We just gonna sit here and watch.
Who won that
You know
battle?
what I'm saying? Who won?
He gonna say Nas.
Well, won the battle? Of course. I mean, we're clear. Queens all day. You know what I'm saying?
about
Like,
that,
that's how it goes. But either way, I would say is everybody's separated. They run in different races. You know what I'm saying? They in different places. There's different people. You know,
Everybody won.
there's Quiet Money. We Backstreet Money. You know what I'm saying? Queens has always been that. I ain't
So-
making no noise. I'm just getting it.
Yeah, people like to say that, like they look at success, but let's not act like Nas ain't successful. Like having a
Nas
great
is
legacy,
doing a lot.
and then all the stuff he's doing with business. But even just more so than that, his legacy is solidified.
And that's what's paying you. So at the end of the day, who won? Like, who's comfortable in their skin and good and just looking like, all right, y'all finished?
How do you compare those beefs to like the beefs today? Because the beefs today are so different with the memes and with the
Instagram beefs?
Instagram and Twitter.
Ether
And then
would have been a great memeable song.
so many people
Definitely.
just weighing into and having things to say. What do you think with the beefs back then and what they're like now?
You know what it is? I still say it comes back down to the music. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, the whole generation, is just a little bit, everybody's caught up. You know, I love it. VH1 used to be a music channel, and now it's a reality show channel. There used to be a MTV where you could see this. It turned into teen pregnancy and whatever it was many years ago. However it goes. So I'm just saying, for me, it's always like this music going to stand up. So when somebody that doesn't know better goes back, you play some music, you're going to go A to B. And, you know, for everybody, if you're trying to get likes more than you're trying to make good songs, then who are you? Right. You know what I'm saying? You're no different than Shirley from Starless that, you know, started twisting and changed her name. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all the same thing.
You know Shirley?
You know what I'm saying? I don't know who it is. I made her up, but she gonna be hot now, right? I just blew up.
Now, hold on. You told
beats.
You told Vibe once that you had 3 albums worth of Nas music, unreleased Nas music.
Probably, yeah, at least that.
What you holding on to it for? Like,
well, the way Nas writes, like
what you holding on? It's up to Nas.
Nas writes like, and I always say he writes like Pac. You know what I'm saying? They write truths, so it doesn't really get dated. So, you know, if you look at the buck that bought the bottle could have struck the lotto, that still is true. Was from when he was 18 to when he's 44. So at the end of the day, he writes stuff that's just in the zone, and then, you know, when we get in the zone, he'll write 50 songs, 60 songs. But it just depends on when he feels like, okay, this body of work. So his albums for him is body of works. And, you know, sometimes you'll hear something that was actually started. A lot of Life is Good were ideas that were started 2 or 3 albums prior to that. But it's just up to him when he decides, okay, this body of work is what I feel like I want to let loose now. And
are you on the new album?
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't actually recorded anything with him since Life is Good, though.
So what do you do with all that unreleased music? You just hold on to it? Like one day it'll come out when y'all all gone? I don't know. Like, what do you...
He'll figure it out. I mean, I think he's been working on the lost tapes too and different stuff like that. But once again, he always looks at it and go, that's the, you know, people throw out mixtapes. It's like, nah, let's just save it and put it together. But that's him as an artist. But it's also a challenge that you have when you are really good at what you do. Everybody just wants to hear everything at the same time. And, you know, you got to pace yourself and really feel like you're picking your moment.
Now, your production is like no other. Like, you have that New York sound. You know what I mean? Even with Mack Wilds' album, you brought back a 90s sound. Do you ever feel like you need to come back here and say, you know what, let me restart this? Let me rejuvenate New York?
I mean, more than rejuvenate, I just think I have to be that. You know what I'm saying? So where I'm at the moment is, you know, I'm pushing out my own, you know, actually right now I'm about to drop 50 songs, do it for the culture. I put out No Panty No, which is Joel Ortiz, Bodega Bam's, Nitty Scott. I am New York music as far as I'm concerned. Like, I just have to do what I have to do. There's all my peers who've been doing it a long time. But, you know, Sonny Digital, Metro Boomin, Mike Will, Gucci, but dropped how many albums since he came home?
Yeah. Right.
At the end of the day, there's a lot of music always coming out. So I'm here to kind of even look at it as inspiring my generation. Yo, we got to let this music go. We got to embrace younger artists. It's not just about who else is going there, and just help them get a little guidance. I feel like a lot of stuff now is like a lot of little SoundClouds and South by Southwest, but they need an adult in the room to go, you know what, if you move this right here, you're going to go straight through that door. Stop getting excited about this little thing right here. That's cool, but kind of just help make the music better. So for me, as far as the New York side, you know, also we know it. New York lost our clubs. We lost our ability to have the venues that were always going to be popping and creating the music. You know, Put It In Your Mouth didn't break on the radio.
Hell no.
You know what I'm saying? It broke somewhere else.
Mixtapes and clubs.
Mixtapes and clubs. So without us actually having a true voice in the ecosystem, you know, I've been working at Sony for a few years and I have my label. Sometimes I can't buy enough. There's nowhere to go. Like, where's our Soul Train? Where's our other space? We got to fight to get on Fallon in between Adele and Justin Timberlake.
But you went against
so
the
you're basically
grain,
saying they need another.
Always.
You need another show. You need
we need more
MTV
things.
Raps or 106.
Exactly. You know, I talked to, you know, the Revolt team about that. What y'all doing? Can y'all get us a Soul Train? Can we get anything else? There's no 106. There's nowhere for black music to go now, period. And then for that, once it's not moving fast enough, it's hard to get the corporate heads to really keep investing in it properly. So,
but you went against the grain, which was dope, because when everybody was going left, you came back with a 90s tempo that was an old school feel. It could have went left or right. It could have went all the way good or all the way bad, and it went good.
It always has for me. You know, I've been blessed with a career where going against the grain has actually been my greatest commerce. Like when the Fugees came out, you know, that was still the peak of the bad boy era. You know what I'm saying? Everything was this way. They were, you know, in between, not quite backpackers, but the music was a little bit more intelligent, logic and theory, or everything else they had to say. When Amy came out, it was more of like Timbaland and Nelly Furtado's world. Right. You know, there's always a time when people have to make the decision whether or not they want to hear Adele or Rihanna that year. You know what I'm saying? It's always that, okay, where are we? And for me, the music that I make is New York is a cosmopolitan city. So we hit New York, London, Paris, Milan. You know, some of the music that is great from other parts of the country, it doesn't always translate to everybody that doesn't even speak English. They just kind of get the bass, you know what I'm saying?
But the thing is, I think people listen to Rihanna and Adele in the same year. I think that sometimes we get caught up in listening to what the radio's playing. The radio is not an accurate reflection of what's going on in the culture.
At all.
Musically.
And that's why right now it's like it's a streaming world. People can build their fan bases. And I just think we just need a balance of the ether, like where people are actually saying this is what I want to hear too. If you don't give them an option, it's like people go to college and they say I'm liberal arts. The dude that was a cornball, he could be like, all right, I'm going to be a jock.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to become the Black Power dude.
Yeah.
I like them over there. He could pick, I'm going to get the nerd, put the glasses on, try to get the nerd girl. That she all right. And then you kind of pick where you're going to be. Well, if you don't have enough options as far as musically speaking, then how can you pick where you want to be and how you want to grow with it? So that means that somebody's going to have to take the L. And for me, even now I'm putting out music with full orchestras. I paid the money for Jasmine Sullivan's orchestras on her first album for Bust Your Windows and Lions and Tigers and Bears. Label wasn't paying that. She's a new artist. They ain't getting that. So I just feel like somebody has to do it and take the L in order to say this is for the greater good. And that's basically where I'm at.
I've been wondering what inspired you lately though, because the No Panties group, of course, and the Do It for the Culture playlist. Like, wow, I'm like, damn, Salaam putting out a lot of music. That's not like Salaam.
Just basically, I had success in in my signings. I had a record Cheerleader, by Omi, which did 1 billion streams, dude from Jamaica, and I sat there and looked at it, and I'm like, all right, cool. I see what the business is, but I also see that if nobody, once again, No Panties really came out of being a party. I was like, there was a drama in the clubs in New York, and I was like, oh man, hip hop about to take an L this spring, so there ain't gonna be no downtown. I lived this before, so I remember when it turned into hip house because there was nothing else to go to.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? There was always a Latin club, and that's where Gungi and Mateo and all of them was kicking in, and that became another side. So I was like, you know what? There should be No Panties Thursdays at the Copa, and that's where we're gonna have Latin music. But we get the Latin pass to get in town, but then we're gonna still, everybody gonna get in there and be live. And that's where it came from. I was like, yo, you know what? There's a Latin twist on this. And after I read Angie's book, I remember that we had it live with Jimmy's remix with the Warm It Up Kane beat that never came out. So I was like, you know what? Yo, Joel, all right, cool. And then I brought them down for 4 days, but then they represented with the pen. And for me, it's always
so they wrote
about
that in 4 days. The
whole project was done. West Side Highway Story was done in 4 days.
Wow.
So for me, it was like, Tuesday to Friday. I brought them down, but they, it's been a balance. And also another thing that helps me with artists is when they really can write. People can have a great voice, but every artist that you asked me about today had incredible pens, and they learned how to channel themselves, whether it's Nas, whether it's the Fugees, Jasmine Sullivan, Miguel, Amy, she could say stuff. Love is a losing game, to the point where Prince is covering her songs. He ain't covering, rest in peace to both of them, but he wouldn't cover anybody's songs just because it was cute. Like, he actually felt like the composition was great. And, No Panty came in, they wrote their asses off about what they felt like was happening. So I'm here to mentor and kind of just say, okay, cool, I'm putting stuff forward. And I'm going to do that every quarter. I have a lot of music, as you say, where's the vaults? Yeah, me and Busta got a whole bunch of music. I'm like, Dungeon Dragons album. All right, go ahead, put out that ELE too. But Dungeon Dragons album is the music I got with you that people need to hear. And
I feel like that should have been out.
Is that
Dungeon
music
Dragon album?
Is that music timeless though? Like when you go back and listen to some of your earlier production and things that have been in the vaults, is it something that you feel like? I
kind of watch the crowd like a DJ. You know what I'm saying? I pull stuff out and I play it, and then I look around the room and people are like, yo, what's that? Like, I worked with Nick Grant recently.
Could love Nick Grant. South Carolina all day.
There you go. So Nick rhymed on a couple tracks I literally made in like 92, 93. Like, A$AP Rocky rhymed on something I made in 91.
I want to hear the Nick Grant record.
You know what I'm saying?
And I want to hear the Dungeon album by Busta Rhymes. That sounded dope.
Exactly.
So
it's coming.
Though and touch the town, because it doesn't surprise me, but you're talking about a lot of clubs, a lot of promoters. Like, I could tell that you went out to get the vibe of the city. Do you still need to do that now?
The only time I see Salaam is out.
Yeah,
like,
Salaam,
I do see you out sometimes.
You still go out?
Once in a while.
Is that important? Because I tell everybody that's important sometimes to hear.
I actually don't go out anymore. I feel like I lived out, in the 90s so much that by the time it turned into bottles and bling bling, I was sitting and look like, yo, y'all all broke and rented this, and why am I sitting here? And, you know what I'm saying?
Fun.
Everybody,
Every time
it turned into
Salaam is leaving already.
There you go. It just turned into fronting. You know what I'm saying? And by the time my whole squad, took their bids and went out of town for a minute, and I was like, you know what? Why am I sitting here? I'm gonna just stick on this music and keep doing what I do. But I still have a DJ's mind because that's how I came up. I came up watching the crowd. I didn't know how to just make music that the DJ who's my friend is gonna play. No, I know how to make something that's gonna work for them and hit the people. So I don't really have to go out. I got big speakers and funny lights in my house.
And
you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I put the lights on, I zone out, I play it loud, like, yeah, this could kind of do that. And what's this conversation? Honestly, there's a lot of music there, but we're missing that conversation that kind of pushes it along. You know what I'm saying?
What's the biggest check you got from production?
From production? Over 7 figures.
Had to be Amy.
Between Amy and the Fugees, like from production side, publishing side.
Well, they paid a million, or I mean, like per beat. Like somebody said, I want you to do this beat.
For one record?
One record.
Probably like for a movie or something, like probably 85, 90, something like that.
90,000.
If that was something like that. But for me, it's always like, do I want to do it? Because you can't buy me to do something I think is corny. You know what I'm saying? It's always about whether or not I can deliver. If I deliver, then cool, pay me what I need. And that's still how I move. You know what I'm saying? I always said I would send people's money back if I didn't feel like the vibe was right.
You know what I wanted to ask you?
What's that?
I'm working with Frank Ocean, right? Before he came out and people knew he was gay. Were you aware of it? And what
Is
would
he gay though?
advice have been? Because I'm sure you heard his music, but I don't know if you knew that he was about to do that. Would you advise?
I heard it probably a few weeks before. I mean, honestly, I'm always, with people living their truth, whatever that is, and cool, do it. I mean, there was times like when we were growing up, like I always wondered about certain artists, like, you know what I'm saying? You give them the side eye,
Right.
I saw your Trick Daddy interview, was hilarious. But at the end of the day, I always wondered about certain people. But if that's what you are, then cool. Like, I think most ladies, if they're looking at a dude, they kind of want to know that information, and the dude kind of want to know like where you at too. Back is against the wall, you rolling. So I think in general, if it's part of his life, then live your life how you want to.
So you knew beforehand. Did he come to you and say, "Hey, do you think this is a good idea?"
He didn't say anything to me, but grapevine. I was kind of like, okay, cool. I mean, there's a couple artists now that might jump out and be like, hey, this is what's up. I have no idea.
You have nothing to do with that.
Nah, that's coming into the business, this isn't a new thing. So my dad always said, there's the blowheads, and then there's the people that's on that other tip.
There's the blowheads and there's the people that's blowing heads.
There you go. And, we ain't either one of them. All right, cool, Pop. So that was my into the industry, just watching and seeing what's what. But honestly, that's everybody's private business. You could do it, and if you feel like it's going to affect your career that much, you know what I'm saying? I'm good friends with Ricky Martin. I'm good friends with the guys with the sex. Like anybody, everywhere, you know what I'm saying, should live their life the way they want to, because that's your given right.
Hey, you said something interesting. You talked about busting. He can put out the LES too, but this Dungeon Dragon is where it's at. Do you ever feel like that when you hear like Nas will put out something, you be like, Nas, we got stuff better over here, bro. Why would you put that out? Like,
yeah, sometimes, I have my opinions on every album, you know what I'm saying, about what I would do, but once again, it's that person's career, and that's just my personal taste. I know my taste is rooted in 90s B-boy, who I am, you know what I'm saying, and I don't think it's ever going to change in that way, you know what I'm saying. I still got extra pairs of Timbs. I still got whatever it is, even in Miami. I'm still always going to be who I am, Kenny Burke performing Rising to the Top in the queue this weekend. I'm there early. I'm trying to. You never been to Queens before. My man Swell birthday. He coming through. Kenny Burke Rising to the Top. You know what that means for Queens Head? That's my life right there.
Queens all day.
Yo, I've been amped for the last 4 months. Like, where? All right, so I want to talk to him. I want to ask him questions. He's performing at Rain, you know what I'm saying? On Saturday in Queens.
You know the whole
birthday.
I might have to go there now.
You know what I'm saying?
Special outfit, something.
It's all black party. All black party. I got 3 black outfits. I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna mix and match. And I might need a Scully just cause.
Just cause.
Just cause, you know what I'm saying? Southside gonna be in the house.
They gotta bring that record back.
GMV.
Oh yeah. Oh.
You know what I'm saying? So we got.
You a real Southside, Northside, Queens.
I'm Northside all day, but I'm clear. I'm in it
gracious,
all day. You know what I'm saying? Grandmaster Vic.
What artists today do you like? Like some of these young artists that are coming out. I know there's a lot to sift through now. It's a little different in this day and age. But who do you like now?
That's a good question. Who do I like at the moment? I'm still looking for them, to be honest. Like I feel like there's a lot of people that have a record here or a vibe there, but I feel like I have to kind of meet people. I'm not that crazy about a lot of the records to say. You know what I'm saying? It's obvious that Drake or Future solidified and they're doing what they have to do. I liked Bodega Bams and I like Nitty Scott, but I got in the room with them and I saw what I could bring out of them. But I'm still looking for, who could be that next set of talent. Because even as an A&R, I'm looking and saying, okay, is it real or is it just a song? Do you really got this? Or
you should do something with Young M.A., man. I see Young M.A. spitting on that Salaam Remi type of beat.
That, and then I also like Don P out of that crew. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I hear what he's doing, but like I said, I gotta get in the room with him and see how his song structure is,
Right.
what he can make happen. I like the voice of a Dave East, but I'm just like, all right, where's that record at? I'm still looking for that shutdown record.
Gotcha.
That if I don't like you, I still got to bop. Like, all right, cool. No, it got to be records that squash the beef almost.
I'm surprised
You know
now
what I'm
they
saying?
tapped you to say, yo, go do something with Dave.
I'm sure it's coming up. You know what I'm saying?
You like Nick Grant though, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, Jason Jeter and Shaka hit me about that. He came out to Miami for a few days, so we got a few joints. But I like a lot of people's energy and their flow. We just need to get that record though, because when that record shuts everything up. You know
What
I'm
if somebody you like their music but you don't like their personality? Does that happen?
all the time. I think that this is conversation. Like, you can hear somebody's voice clearly, but you ain't necessarily, you ain't talking to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't call it who I don't like because I dismissed them early. You know what I'm
Because there
saying?
gotta be people that's super talented, but you like, they kind of ass.
Once again,
Forget
I
it.
ain't even hear it. It got blended out in the crossfade. Like, you know what I'm saying? I missed that part of it. But in general, I'm looking for whoever that is. And that's where I'm saying, I'm trying to do it for the culture. I'm trying to open a portal. I signed an artist off Facebook this week that's been hitting me for 2 years.
Wow.
Like, yo, okay, listen to this. And she never knew I was listening. She hit me with a record in April. I'm like, yo, what's that? And now we had like 17 million on Spotify.
Wow.
This week. This artist named Starley from Australia.
That's
You know what I'm saying? But I'm on social media. I sit there and I wake up the sun 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm watching like what's popping, what's something good. I kind of reach out like, hey, what's good? Can we work out something? I love the group King. You know what I'm saying? On some mellow, chill out stuff. But like I said, I'm looking for that, and I'm also trying to be a part of setting up these next portals. We need the new Soul Train. We need the new space for, we need new clubs in the city. We do. We need places where
I don't know if we're
the
gonna
music
get
is
back in New York though. They pushed
It's
it out so
hard.
crazy, man.
push it out so crazy. But once again, we can actually see that where there are no clubs, you know what I'm saying, we're living in strip club culture because strip clubs, have an ecosystem that won't die.
Right.
Dude lap, get happy, girl get some money, there's a drink playing, and there was a song on. And whatever that song was is a song that we've been listening to since in my white tees. You know what I'm saying?
we
or
got-
Pop Jocket Locket or whatever it was.
We got a TV portal coming.
Exactly. So
Talk to you about it. We got a TV portal coming.
and we need that. And then the more of that we have, like I said, we, growing up, we had Soul Train. We had Hot Tracks. We had, 20 different ways. We
Video
need
music box.
Video music box, front line, so that there's somewhere to do it. Because even, like I said, as a label exec, when I got $400,000 to spend, they ain't nowhere to go.
I agree. I mean, the only thing they got now is radio. They'll come do Sway, Breakfast
Radio and
Club,
the internet. And then on the internet, you got to fight through, who turned into a man or a woman this week, and who fell on a flight of stairs, and it's like they just forget about what you did, which is great. But cream rises to the top, and whoever's going to keep going is going to keep going because in it for the long haul.
And I feel like those TV portals legitimize certain artists. You know what I mean? Like, because anybody can be on the internet.
Yeah,
Everybody can't be
the
on
thing
TV.
is that with the American Idols and the the Voice and all that stuff, we can count how many artists really became stars
Yes.
after that. So that means you could sing, but then for me, the balance is, the ones that I want to work on is who can write and sing.
Right.
Here's a beat. Whoever gives you the best song on this beat, that's a platform I got coming. Cool. I'm gonna give up a beat. Whoever give me the best song on this, then we're gonna bring it in. You can go, because it's like working in reggae. It's like 25 people on the same beat.
Right.
When we hear that beat, we think of the first person that had the best song.
The best song, right?
That's
And
true.
then that's what we could say. Like 50, I always say, was probably one of the best writers of his generation. He would take a Magic Stick beat that was a UMC's Blue Cheese Part 2 or something like that, and then write it into what it needed to be. When you listen to the records that he would write across the board, he would take your record. You'd be mad when he get on it because he would outright you on your own song.
Right.
So for me, it's about being that writer and really having that hook and having that conversation. There's two emotions people can't stop: laughter and nosiness.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And when it gets down to it, they want to hear what you got to say. They in your business all the time. They can't stop a joke. You know what I'm saying? No matter what. And for that's part of the writing process. Like, people really got to get writing. You know what I'm saying? He had the Jam Master Jay or whatever he had early out, but then he still worked on it in writing. You know what I'm saying? If you can't do that, you can have a great voice, you can have a platform, you can have a models type pictures. My man shot a video, but to what? If you ain't say nothing, it's like going to hiring a bass player that don't got no bass line, or going to pay the preacher, but he ain't say nothing. Like, what we doing?
What greatness did you see in Mack Wilds?
Number one, I was a fan, you know what I'm saying, from The Wire. So that's what made me even pay some attention. But more than anything else, while we were out in LA, he was shooting, 90210, and he would always come by the studio after I met him. And we just be talking about the same old, like, that's what the album was made out of, just a New York conversation. Ain't no duck sauce out here. brought me some duck sauce in the jar. Like, there was nothing there. And then I'd be walking around, and I heard him doing little stuff in the studio, but he did this one record called Cold with Warren Campbell. And then I heard the radio voice come out of him. I'm like, actually, you know what? You got more than this, and you cool. So I was just like, you know what? When you get off the TV and you get like that month break, I'm going to try to bring you out to Miami and see what you got. And when I brought him out, actually during Christmas, I brought him out for a week, and he wrote Henny. He sang Own It. He sang Remember the Time, and he did another Rico Love record that we written for Usher. Nailed it in like 4 days, but sang it better than Rico, sang it better than Neo, sang it better than Fauntleroy on another record. So I was like, you know what, you deserve a shot because you're able to actually really do it. And that's usually my test. Like, I try to get with people for 2 or 3 days, and if they can really make it happen, then it makes a difference.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And that was ultimately, we only spent, maybe 3 or 4 weeks creating that album.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
work fast,
how
man.
you could do it.
So you had the whole concept, the whole New York City, the love story, like.
It came like, you know, as we were trying to find the title for it, but we definitely, I was like, I wanted to play all the music that was missing. And it was also at the time when, you know, Trinidad James, like, New York sound like word. And I was like, word, all right, let me see. You know, at the end of the day, I'm a DJ, so I know how to get the DJs what they want. You know, Eric Beats for President caught from that part of it, flipping around. It ain't gonna move. And then also, I wanted to hear it. You know what I'm saying? That's the other part of it. I just feel like I do what I want to hear, and then there's a small group that might want to rock with me, and then that just keeps expanding. I never made a record because everybody in the world is going to think it's the best. Like, I ain't really thinking about them. I'm rocking for my immediate crew. Right. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it may be, whether it's a Here Comes a Hot Stepper, that's Heartbeat with Murderer, with some Das Effects lyrics. It's all made for us. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's all made for the tater salad. This is what we do that they will never understand. And you know, with that, my concept on it is basically, I tell all the people in labor, yo, I got a record called Who Made the Tater Salad, and everybody in Black America is gonna know about it, and 4 million gonna buy it. And they be like, what? And I'm like, all right, cool, but I'll ask you, Charlamagne, Mr. South Carolina, how many times in your life have you heard Who Made the Tater Salad? So that's the part.
I don't hear that. I'm at the wrong place.
There you go. And the fact is that unless somebody lived the life of Black America, then you ain't gonna know it. But I feel the same way about the music. There's certain things that I'm gonna play and you're gonna be like, that's whatever. I don't get it. There's not a strong hook. Okay, cool. But that's why they at the strip club trying to buy whatever's playing. They watching what happens. They're not actually creating what happens because they don't know how to make it. They don't know the phonetics and the ABCs. They just watching the words. Like, this is a hot word. Buy. You know, that ain't it. This is about, you know, I need records that hit my Negro bone. You know
and
what I'm
everybody
saying?
can't make potato salad either, by the way.
There you go. And the wrong one to get you sick.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So we don't put nothing good out. It's just, you know, fart out in the airwaves. Like, like easy. Spray that. Let's get it together. Let's get something that really feels like that. And that's not even, I'm trying not to make sure I'm not being the old guy who's judging, who's doing whatever else. I'm just like, all right, well, cool. This is an option. You want to go left or go right? You decide what you want, McDonald's or that proper cooked meal.
I would pay to see a conversation between you and Questlove. I
was in the studio with them all last week.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I was actually playing bass. You know, Questlove kept me up past my bedtime. Like, Salaam, you got one more in you? Like 3 o'clock in the morning. So I'm playing bass and he's playing drums. I'm half falling asleep. And I actually got in there for like a week working on the New Roots album.
Wow. It seemed like y'all would be the best of friends.
It was crazy because he definitely found some questions to ask me that I forgot about. You know, like, wait a minute, you were in the studio the first time on Lamella Rue? Oh yeah, I did do that. I forgot. Like, you know, just the perspectives, because we've both been sitting across from each other but not necessarily speaking to each other about, you know, stuff for a long time.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, man.
Thanks for having me.
History lesson.
Thanks for having me.
And Do It For The Culture, that's out now, right?
Do It For The Culture playlist is out. Okay. You know, doitfortheculture.club is the website that I'm just going to be launching it. But like I said, 50 records every 6 months, every 3 months actually. And, you know, just keeping it going. But more than anything else, you know, look to see me in spaces where it's all about just trying to help somebody else get on.
No Ponte.
Right.
No Ponte all day.
All right. It's The Breakfast Club. It's Salaam Remi.
The Breakfast Club. Every weekday morning. Tune in.